Real quick, who's your favorite special attacker? That's great. Now switch it out. I sent Blissey in on it. Or Eviolite Chansey. Probably Blissey though, because assuming hazards are up, Blissey can take advantage of its boots. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You clicked on the video and you already know who the main character of this video is. It's about Blissey, and also kinda Chansey, but mostly Blissey. They're both stupid pink blobs with a propensity for telling any special attacker that came with that secret sword or size shock to kindly leave the field at the first moment of opportunity. Choice specs be damned. Today, we're going to talk about what it is that makes these pink blobs so annoying to fight, and why Blissey in particular is the single best special wall in the game, capable of beating 95% of special attackers no matter what. Specs Miradon? Never heard of him. Doesn't even 2-hit KO the blob from full health. I'm not joking. But before we start, I have a lo-fi channel called Luna's World where I'm using the power of lo-fi to bring this character to life. So if you're interested in her or want some lo-fi to study or to relax to, head over to Luna's World. I will leave the link in the description below. With that, let's begin. So I guess we gotta kick it off with the elephant in the room, and that's the stat spread. This stat spread is notoriously great for sitting there and doing nothing, and has been since quite literally the dawn of time. And when I say the dawn of time, I mean 1996 when Chansey first spawned into existence. Although, one could argue that Gen 1 Chansey is more egregious than any Blissey. Because, unlike Blissey, it had a usable attacking stat of base 105 special attack, much higher than Blissey's 75. I weirdly feel as if Gen 1 Chansey existed in modern day and there was no Blissey, said version of Chansey would be potentially even more obscene because unlike most walls, it wouldn't be completely passive. But that's another hypothetical for another day. Blissey's stat spread was built for standing there and sponging special assaults and healing off the damage like there's no tomorrow. That much goes without saying. But let me tell you, the stats do not tell the whole story, just a decent chunk of it. What makes Blissey so abnormally broken is the typing. Yeah, while normal as an offensive type is questionable, because it hits zilch for super effective damage, nada, none. This creature isn't made to be dealing super effective damage anyways, unless you really wanted to let Doug Trio know it wasn't safe, in which case you ran Ice Beam. But once again, I'm getting ahead of myself. What makes normal so good for a Pokemon like Blissey is that normal is a pretty solid defensive typing. Having one weakness, one immunity, and a slew of neutralities is really solid for a defensive typing, because this means that you're going to be able to switch in to a variety of special attacks, because 84% of them do nothing to you unboosted. And that's being generous, because riddle me this, how much is Focus Blast actually doing to you? Not enough, that's for sure. Blissey's typing lets it come in and tell people why Key Blast spam never works in anime usually. I've never seen it work anyways. You tell me. And then you combine that typing with the move pool. And that is when Blissey's true colors begin to show and why it's considered to be the pink demon. Blissey is just about every tool in the world that anyone could ever ask for when it comes to being a wall. While it may not be able to teleport anymore, which sucks, and it has lost Toxic, one of its best walling moves, what it kept is incredibly impactful to its gameplay, and what makes it such a fixture on teams, especially stall. Even if I personally shun this type of gameplay myself. Just play around it, stall players say. But it's not about playing around it. It's about the fact that stall is just snooze-inducing to fight against. But like it or not, it's there, regardless of how viable it actually is. And it's causing me to need caffeine in my system to talk about. One sec. Much better. Alright, Back to Blissey itself, and not its good friends down at that sloth train station in Zootopia. Blissey has some of the most gorked tools in history. You see, back when Game Freak was still starting with Pokemon and didn't know what they wanted to do with it, they gave the normal types in particular some of the most varied move pools imaginable to compensate for their stab being on paper, dog water. Of course, this wasn't always the case because normal stab was actually the best stuff ever, but shut up, Gen 1 was years ago. But because of this, Pokemon like Blissey, Wigglytuff, Snorlax, and the gang got a lot of rather stupid tools. For Blissey, this extended of course to soft-boiled, because duh. And then stuff like, I don't know, Ice Beam, Blizzard, Thunder Wave, Seismic Toss, Reflect, Light Screen, Thunderbolt, Fire Blast, not even regular Flamethrower, just Fire Blast. And this was back when Pokemon didn't have that many moves. Fast forward to now, and it also has Calm Mind to specifically beat other Calm Mind Pokemon. You know, just to make sure that a non-Psyshock special attacker can't beat it. It also has Healing Wish to sacrifice itself to get a partner in for free, Wish and Heal Bell as a means of playing Cleric, and then, I don't know, just a small little move, nothing too crazy. Only the best move in singles, Stealth Rock. For some strange, ungodly reason, they decided that Blissey needed more ways to deal passive damage. And so, they gave it the best move in the game for ensuring that the opponents are typically taking damage, regardless of whether or not it's even on the field after a turn. Sure, nowadays in modern era, Blisseys are on like Stealth Rock, Seismic Toss, Thunder Wave, and Soft-Boiled with a pair of heavy-duty boots, so it doesn't take rock damage on switch-in. But don't mistake the standard existing for a lack of variety. Your Great Tusk can get sniped by Ice Beam on the Switch, and it will hurt. And it's happened to people before. You are not safe. This stupid squishy special sponge has one of the most versatile and nonsensical move pools, because Game Freak does not care about balance, and we've received many examples of such. And of course, to wrap up this package of utter nonsensical insanity, one would likely think that the best way to beat Blissey at this point would be to stall it out yourself. Surely, right? After all, it can only do so much damage by itself, and if you hit it with Toxic, it's crippled and will die eventually. So the issue is solved. Well, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna slap this on the screen and then sigh in exasperation. I wish you were right, but alas. Now, I have brought up the heavy-duty boots, but never leftovers. What's that about? Well, to keep it short and sweet, not being able to take chip damage from hazards or get poisoned by toxic spikes is quite literally just better than being able to heal it off with leftovers, because leftovers heals the damage you would take from stealth rocks over the course of 2 turns. Heavy Duty Boots makes it to where you never take that damage at all. Heavy Duty Boots makes it to where you never take that damage at all, saving you 2 incredibly valuable turns of damage right there. And in a world where people are at times trying to put up stealth rocks and all 3 layers of spikes on the field, racking up 37% on a broke bootless Blissey every time it comes in, you really want to have the shoes ready. This is actually the entire reason as to why Eviolite Chansey stopped being better than Blissey. There was a small era where, despite the buffs to knockoff, Eviolite Chansey was considered to be better than Blissey because it was bulkier and it took less damage from attacks. However, once Heavy Duty Boots came to be, while Chansey was bulkier on paper, it didn't matter when it took free damage on every switch-in. In the meantime, Blissey got to put on shoes and never take damage, so it became bulkier than Chansey in practice. Heavy Duty Boots are this Pokemon's bread and butter. HDB is just broken, but very, very necessary. So we've covered the innumerable countless strengths of the Pokemon. So what about that incredibly glaring weakness, right? Well, 2 of them. A weakness to fighting and a 10 defense, as well as a general inability to hurt ghosts by any conventional means, especially Goldango, who shrugs off thunder waves like it's no one's business. Those are some pretty palpable weaknesses. Well, as weird as it is to say, it isn't completely helpless against physical attacks. Don't get me wrong, they are not preferable, and you are not switching into Ivy Cudgel, Pyroball, Flower Trick, and heavens forbid close combat in anything from gouging fire in the sun. But some of those attacks don't outright kill you. And because of that, even if the odds aren't the best for your blob, Blissey still has the chance to do something before going out. Whether it be tossing out a Thunderwave, getting up rocks, or even seismic tossing for that extra bit of chip that can swing you back into the game. Only way it isn't is if it's dealing with like body press or close combat, where if you have your Blissey in against a Pokemon that can throw out those attacks, it's your fault. Blissey is there to tank special hits. So if it's in on Great Tusk, Cinderace, Ogerpon, Roaring Moon, or King Gambit, you may have gotten outplayed. But even at Blissey's absolute worst, there's still a real chance it manages to do something to help the team before going down. That's how much that HP stat makes up for a lack of defense, and just how good Blissey really is. And yeah, Knockoff can remove its boots. Knockoff can remove anybody's item usually. This is not a flaw exclusive to Blissey, but getting hit by it does suck. All in all, Blissey is one of the most impactful special walls in any generation it's in, if not the most impactful. In Gen 2, it was a bit gimmicky, but in Gen 3 onwards, it or Chansey was always at the top of the Smogon singles tiering. Excellent in Generations 4 and 5, took a back seat to Eviolite Chansey in Gen 6 and 7, and then, once Boots got introduced, immediately took its spot back from its younger sibling and continued dominance as a special wall, falling off for a while in Gen 9 before coming back with a vengeance. The Chansey line has been overused in every single generation it has ever been in, and there will never be another Pokemon like it. Clodsire has too many weaknesses, Florges lacks a good recovery move, Shuckle and Regice both suck, Deoxys defense just isn't what it used to be, and Goodra is just a poor soul. Debatably, its only true competition is Toxapex, who lacks the HP to be as consistent of a special wall, but a darn good physical one, so much so that the two are sometimes seen on the same team as a part of a Yucky Stalkor. There will never be another Blissey, and there never should be. But if there is, then Game Freak will truly have abandoned any concept of balance. Chansey heals you and your Pokemon because it wants to. Don't mistake that kindness for weakness, because that mistake can prove fatal.